Welcome to SI Audiobooks. Please like and share for more content. The Black Cat by Edgar Allan Poe is a dark and haunting short story that explores themes of guilt, madness, and the unreliable nature of the narrator's psyche. Below is an in-depth analysis and key notes for each chapter, as well as some insight into the broader themes of the story. Introduction. The story begins with the narrator claiming to be condemned to death but insisting that he will tell the truth about the events that led to his downfall. The narrator urges the reader to believe his account, claiming that he is not mad, despite the bizarre nature of the story. This opening immediately sets the tone of unreliability. Key notes. The narrator's insistence on his sanity is suspect, foreshadowing the story's descent into madness. The ambiguity of the narrator's reliability creates a sense of unease in the reader. Chapter 1. Introduction to the narrator and the Black Cat. The narrator begins by recounting his early life, where he describes himself as a kind and gentle man, with a love for animals. He had many pets, but his favorite was a large, black cat named Pluto. The narrator's affection for Pluto was immense. However, over time, the narrator began drinking heavily, which changed his demeanor. As he became increasingly intoxicated, his behavior became more violent and abusive. Key notes. The narrator's early personality is juxtaposed with his later descent into cruelty, highlighting the transformative effects of alcohol. Pluto represents the narrator's former innocence and purity, which will later be corrupted. The narrator's connection to the cat symbolically represents his deteriorating mental state. Chapter 2. Violence against Pluto. One night, under the influence of alcohol, the narrator becomes enraged by Pluto's refusal to allow him to pet him. In a fit of rage, the narrator gouges out Pluto's eye, and the act of cruelty towards the animal is described in vivid, graphic detail. His guilt briefly flashes, but soon fades as he grows more apathetic. The narrator justifies the act as a moment of weakness brought on by his drinking. Key notes. The act of mutilating Pluto is a key moment in the story, symbolizing the narrator's loss of humanity and moral compass. This incident also foreshadows further violence and the narrator's increasing alienation from any sense of compassion or normalcy. The eyes of animals. Pluto's missing eye are symbolic in literature for a loss of vision or moral insight, which becomes important in understanding the narrator's blindness to his own moral decay. Chapter 3. The Fire and Pluto's Death. Pluto's behavior becomes more fearful and elusive after the mutilation. The narrator's violence escalates, and one night, he hangs Pluto from a tree, killing him. That same night, a fire destroys the narrator's house, leaving only the image of a cat's shape burned into the walls. This occurrence leaves the narrator in a state of confusion and guilt. However, he soon forgets his remorse as the days go by. Key notes. The fire represents the destructive nature of the narrator's rage and cruelty. The image of the cat burned into the wall hints at the idea of retribution or a supernatural element, suggesting that the narrator's actions have cursed him. The narrator's claim of forgetting his remorse indicates the delusional state of his mind. Chapter 4. The New Cat. Several days later, the narrator adopts a new cat, which looks remarkably similar to Pluto, though it has a white spot on its chest. The narrator grows increasingly fond of the new cat, but soon he begins to notice its behavior, which reminds him of Pluto. He becomes repulsed by the cat's constant attention and sees it as a reminder of his guilt. However, he continues to care for the animal, despite his conflicted feelings. Key notes. The new cat represents the return of the narrator's guilt and the reminder of his past actions. The white spot on the cat's chest is symbolic, often interpreted as a representation of the narrator's own moral stain that will come back to haunt him. The cat's behavior mirrors the narrator's growing sense of unease and inner conflict. Chapter 5. The escalating relationship with the new cat. The narrator begins to grow more paranoid and frustrated with the new cat. He sees it as a reminder of his crime and becomes fixated on the cat's appearance, particularly the white spot on its chest, which starts to resemble the shape of a gallows. The cat becomes a constant presence in the narrator's life, and the narrator feels trapped by the animal's gaze and behavior. Key notes. The narrator's obsession with the cat and its symbolism represents his deteriorating mental state. The comparison of the white spot to a gallows is a direct foreshadowing of the narrator's eventual punishment for his crimes. This chapter represents the narrator's deepening madness, where he becomes consumed by guilt but simultaneously attempts to suppress it. Chapter 6: The Murder of the Wife. The narrator's violent tendencies reach their peak when his wife intervenes to stop him from harming the cat. In a fit of rage, the narrator murders his wife, hiding her body in the wall of their house. The cat is also seemingly lost in the chaos, but the narrator feels that it has been punished along with him. As the police arrive to investigate his wife's disappearance, the narrator feels confident that he has concealed his crime. Key notes: the murder of the wife marks the narrator's complete moral corruption. The cat's symbolic role in the narrator's downfall reaches its climax here. The narrator's attempt to hide his crime and the cat's role in the uncovering of it introduces the theme of justice and retribution. Chapter 7: The Cat's Return and the Unraveling of the Crime. As the narrator completes his confession to the police, the cat appears within the walls, leading to the discovery of the wife's body. The narrator's overconfidence and sense of superiority in having committed the perfect crime are shattered. The presence of the cat, which had been thought to be lost, represents the narrator's inevitable downfall. The police discover the body, and the narrator is arrested. Key notes: the cat's return is a symbolic representation of guilt that cannot be ignored or hidden. The narrator's final breakdown, his cries, and the cat's role in his exposure emphasize the theme of cosmic justice. The story concludes with the narrator being caught, underscoring the theme that no evil deed goes unpunished, no matter how well hidden. Conclusion: themes and analysis. Guilt and retribution. The story demonstrates that guilt is inescapable, no matter how the narrator tries to avoid the consequences of his actions. Thanks for listening. SI Audiobooks.